I thought I was doing everything right. Then the world collapsed. I used to believe that if you worked hard, saved your money, and played by the rules, you'd be okay. That the American dream wasn't just a phrase, it was a promise. A contract between you and the country that said, do your part, and we'll do ours. I was wrong. My name doesn't matter for this story. What matters is that I was like millions of other Americans in 2008. I had a job, a mortgage, a family, and a belief that tomorrow would be better than today. I learned the hard way that the system I trusted was built on lies. And when it fell apart, people like me paid the price while the people responsible walked away richer than before. I grew up in a suburb outside Phoenix, Arizona. Middle-class neighborhood, tree-lined streets, and parents knew each other by name. My dad worked in construction. My mom was a secretary at an elementary school. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We had everything we needed and some of what we wanted. My parents taught me the basics. Work hard, don't spend more than you make, save for emergencies, and invest in your future. They bought their house in 1985 for $89,000. By the time I graduated high school in 1999, it was worth almost $200,000. That house represented everything they believed in. Stability, growth, security. I went to Arizona State University, paid for it with student loans, part-time jobs, and some help from my parents. I graduated in 2003 with a degree in business administration and about $18,000 in debt. Not great, but manageable. I got a job at a regional bank in Tempe. Entry level, customer service, $32,000 a year. I wore a tie every day and felt proud. That's where I met Sarah. She worked in the loan department. Brown eyes, quick smile, smarter than anyone I'd ever dated. We got married in 2005. Small wedding. Her family, my family, close friends. We honeymooned in San Diego for 4 days because that's what we could afford. We didn't care. We had each other and a plan. The plan was simple. Save up, buy a house, start a family, build a life. By 2006, we had saved about $25,000. Not a fortune, but enough for a down payment in most markets. That's when things started feeling different. Everyone around us was buying houses. CEO workers, friends from college, people younger than us. Houses weren't just homes anymore, they were investments. Tickets to wealth, ways to build equity while you slept. The news talked about it constantly. Real estate prices were climbing fast. If you didn't get in now, you'd be priced out forever. Sarah and I started looking. We went to open houses every weekend. Small homes, starter homes, places we could actually afford. But every time we found something decent, it would sell within days, often for more than the asking price. We kept getting outbid. It was frustrating. Then we met a real estate agent named Derek. Mid-40s, expensive suit, friendly in that aggressive way salespeople have. He told us we were thinking too small. He said we qualified for way more than we realized. He introduced us to a mortgage broker named Linda. Linda worked out of a strip mall office with motivational posters on the walls. She had us fill out some paperwork, asked about our income, our savings, our credit scores. Then she ran some numbers and smiled. You're approved for $340,000, she said. I laughed. I was making $38,000 a year by then. Sarah was making $41,000. Combined, we barely cleared $80,000. How could we afford a $340,000 house? Linda explained it like I was a child. Interest rates were low. There were special loan programs. We could do an adjustable rate mortgage, start with a low payment that would adjust later. By then, she said, the house would be worth more. We could refinance or sell and upgrade. Housing prices only went up. I was skeptical. Sarah was too. But Derek backed Linda up. He said everyone was doing this. He said if we didn't act now, we'd regret it forever. He showed us houses we'd been dreaming about, 3 bedrooms to bathrooms, real yards, neighborhoods with good schools, places where we could see ourselves raising kids. We talked about it for weeks. My dad warned me. He said it sounded too good to be true. But my CEO workers were all doing it. Sarah's sister had just bought a house the same way. Everyone said it was fine. The banks wouldn't lend money they knew we couldn't pay back, right? That would be insane. In August 2006, we bought a house in Chandler for $315,000. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 1,800 square feet. It had a 2-car garage and a backyard with a pool. We put down $20,000. The rest was financed with a subprime adjustable rate mortgage. Our initial payment was $1,850 a month. Tight but doable. I remember the day we got the keys. Sarah cried. I felt this surge of pride. We were homeowners. We were adults. We were living the dream. For the first year, everything felt perfect. We painted the walls. We furnished the rooms slowly, carefully. Sarah got pregnant with our first child in early 2007. We set up a nursery. We hosted Thanksgiving. My parents came over and my dad shook my hand. He said he was proud of me. But there were small signs that something was wrong. A CEO worker at the bank got laid off. Another one mentioned that people were starting to miss mortgage payments. Not a lot, but enough to notice. Then I started hearing about foreclosures. Nationally, the news mentioned rising defaults, but it felt distant, like it was happening somewhere else. In January 2008, our mortgage adjusted. The payment jumped from $1,850 to $2,400 a month. Linda had mentioned this might happen, but we assumed we'd refinance before then. We called her. She said the market had changed. Lending standards had tightened. Refinancing wasn't as easy anymore. She said we should wait a few months and try again. We tried to make it work. We got back on everything. No more dinners out. No vacations. We stopped contributing to savings. Sarah picked up overtime when she could. I started driving for a courier service. On weekends, we were exhausted, stressed, barely seeing each other. Our daughter was 6 months old. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Then in March 2008, I heard about Stearns. A major investment bank had collapsed. The news said it was because of bad mortgage loans. Subprime mortgages. I didn't fully understand what that meant, but I felt a chill. By summer, things were falling apart everywhere. The bank where I worked started laying people off, not just a few dozens, entire departments. I survived the first round, then the second, but the atmosphere was toxic. People were scared, customers were angry, everyone knew something terrible was coming, but no one knew how bad it would be. In September 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed. It was the largest bankruptcy in American history. The stock market crashed. The news showed images of Wall Street traders looking stunned, panicked. The government scrambled to bail out banks. The phrase "too big to fail" was suddenly everywhere. I got laid off on a Tuesday in October. No warning. They called 12 of us into a conference room and told us the bank was downsizing. We had 2 weeks. I drove home in silence. I didn't know how to tell Sarah. She cried when I told her, not just because of the money, but because she knew what it meant. We were trapped. I had no job. Our mortgage payment was $2,400 a month. We had about $3,000 in savings. Our house, which we bought for $315,000 2 years earlier, was now worth maybe $210,000. We were underwater by over $100,000. We couldn't sell even if we wanted to. I applied for jobs everywhere. Retail, warehouses, anything. The economy was in free fall. Unemployment was climbing toward 10%. Everyone was looking for work. I got interviews, but so did hundreds of other people. I was overqualified for some jobs, underqualified for others. Mostly, I was just one more desperate face in an endless crowd. We missed our first mortgage payment in November. I called the bank. They told me to apply for a loan modification. I filled out the paperwork. I sent in pay stubs, bank statements, hardship letters. They said it would take 60 days to review. In the meantime, we missed December's payment. Then January's. The letters started coming. Notices of default, warnings about foreclosure, legal language I barely understood. I called the bank over and over. Each time, I got transferred to someone new. Each time, I explained our situation. Each time, they told me they'd look into it and call me back. They never did. Sarah found work at a retail store. Minimum wage. It helped, but it wasn't enough. We were bleeding out slowly. We stopped paying credit cards. Then utilities. We kept food on the table and the lights on, but everything else fell away. Our neighbors were going through the same thing. The house next door went into foreclosure, then the one across the street, then 3 more on our block. The neighborhood started looking abandoned. Lawns turned brown. Pools went green. For sale signs everywhere, but nobody was buying. I felt ashamed. I felt like a failure. I'd done everything I was supposed to do. I'd gone to college. I'd gotten a job. I'd saved money. I'd bought a house. And still, I was losing. I stopped answering calls from my parents. I didn't want to admit how bad things were. Sarah and I fought constantly. Not because we didn't love each other, but because stress turns people into strangers. In March 2009, the bank finally responded to our modification request. Denied. They said we didn't qualify. I asked why. They said our income was too low. I pointed out that was exactly why we needed help. They said there was nothing they could do. They suggested we consider short sale or deed in lieu of foreclosure. I didn't even know what those terms meant. I had to look them up. A short sale meant selling the house for less than we owed and hoping the bank would forgive the difference. A deed in lieu meant just giving the house back to the bank. Either way, our credit would be destroyed. Either way, we'd lose everything we'd put into that house. We tried to short sell. We listed it for $200,000. No offers. We dropped it to $180,000. Still nothing. The market was flooded. There were too many houses and not enough buyers. Banks were sitting on thousands of foreclosed properties they couldn't move. We received the foreclosure notice in June 2009. We had 30 days to vacate. I remember Sarah reading the letter and just going silent. Our daughter was playing on the floor with blocks, completely unaware that her world was about to change. We moved into a small apartment on the east side of Phoenix. 2 bedrooms, $750 a month. It felt like going backward 10 years. All that worked, all that sacrifice, and we were right back where we started, except now our credit was ruined, our savings were gone, and we had a child to support. I finally found stable work in late 2009. Warehouse job, $13 an hour, night shift. It wasn't what I trained for, but it paid the bills. Barely. Sarah kept working retail. Between us, we made just enough to survive. We couldn't save. We couldn't plan. We just existed, day to day, paycheck to paycheck. The anger came later, not immediately, but slowly. As I started understanding what had actually happened, I learned that the banks had knowingly given out loans to people who couldn't afford them. They'd packaged those bad loans into complex financial products and sold them to investors. They'd lied about the risk. They'd bet against their own customers. And when it all collapsed, they got bailed out with taxpayer money while people like me lost everything. I learned that the mortgage broker who told us we qualified for $340,000 was incentivized to push bigger loans. That the real estate agent who said prices only go up was making commission on every sale. That the rating agencies who said these mortgage-backed securities were safe were paid by the banks that created them. The whole system was designed to extract wealth from people like me and funnel it upward. And almost no one was held accountable. A few banks paid fines pennies compared to what they'd made. A handful of executives lost their jobs but walked away with golden parachutes worth millions. Not a single major Wall Street figure went to jail. Not one. Meanwhile, millions of Americans lost their homes. Trillions of dollars in household wealth evaporated. Retirement accounts were gutted. Lives were destroyed. And we were told it was our fault. We were told we'd been irresponsible, that we'd lived beyond our means, that we should have known better. Maybe we should have. Maybe I should have listened to my gut when Linda told us we qualified for $340,000. Maybe I should have walked away when the numbers didn't make sense. But I was 26 years old. I trusted the system. I trusted that banks wouldn't lend money they knew I couldn't repay. I trusted that the government was regulating these industries. I was naive. It's been over 15 years now. Sarah and I are still together. We have 2 kids. We rebuilt our lives slowly, painfully. We rent a house in a decent neighborhood. We've saved some money again, but we've never tried to buy another home. The dream died in 2008. Sometimes people ask if I'm bitter. The truth is complicated. I'm angry at a system that valued profit over people. I'm angry at the lack of accountability. I'm angry that the people who caused the crisis got richer while the rest of us suffered. But I'm also grateful for what I still have: my family, my health, a second chance. What I learned is this: the rules aren't the same for everyone. When wealthy people and big corporations fail, they get bailouts. When working people fail, they get blamed. The system isn't designed to protect people like me. It's designed to extract from us. I also learned that resilience isn't about bouncing back to where you were. It's about accepting that some things are gone forever and building something new from what's left. Sarah and I aren't the same people we were in 2006. We're harder, more cynical, more careful. But we're still here. We survived. The 2008 financial crisis wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't an accident. It was the result of greed, corruption, and a failure of leadership at every level. It was a choice made by people who knew the risks and decided that their profits mattered more than our lives. I thought I was doing everything right. I worked hard. I saved. I followed the rules. And I lost everything anyway. Not because I was reckless, but because the people at the top of the system were. They gambled with our futures, and when they lost, we paid the price. That's the real American story. Not the one about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Not the one about hard work and success. The real story is about a rigged game where the house always wins and regular people are just chips on the table. I trusted the system. It cost me everything. Now I trust nothing but the people I love and the work I can do with my own two hands. Everything else is just a story they tell you to keep you playing a game you were never meant to win. If this story resonated with you, like this video, subscribe for more real stories, share your experience in the comments. Thank you for watching.